such a thing as a social shopper? I mean, okay, there's some people who have smoother skin and less grey hair than I do, but is there really any such thing as a social shopper? Have things changed that much? Paul, perhaps you like to start.
Yeah, I think there is definitely a social shopper. I think when I was thinking about what I was going to try and get across on this panel, I think the fundamentals are still there, but there are 4 things that really push people's buttons, you know, saving them money, getting them laid, different things like that. So there are still those fundamentals that are there. I think there is definitely an emerging group that are more likely to buy online than others. But I think the fundamentals are still there. You can still push people's buttons. And
what would be the basics, the features of the group who are more likely to buy online than others, do you think?
So, again, it depends by vertical, because again, you can have different people wanting to buy for different products, and I think that's very important to understand. You know, if you're trying to get someone to buy a Mars bar, say, it's a very different bag of tricks than if you're trying to get them to buy a Bentley, for example. I think there's lots of characters, so to, you know, give them a hard and fast, this is what a social shopper looks like. You're probably going to have more switched on, likely to be a smartphone user, things like that, you know, quite sort of generalised, but again, still...
Is the smartphone user thing, sorry, I've always wondered what you asked on this, is the smart, and you don't have to answer, someone else can if you wish, is the smartphone user cliche, if you like, because they're into their gadgets, or is it just because someone who's got a smartphone is going to be a bit more affluent, and therefore likely to have the money to spend?
Yeah, I'm not going to answer that question. I'm a true spirit. But I think one of our mantras is that technology changes, but people don't. And I think that plays on to Paul's sort of point that actually fundamental characteristics don't change in how we behave, but obviously sort of our sort of moral compass and what inspires us to do stuff won't change. But actually how we interact with technology will change as a result of the technology. So I think where you can get bogged down is when we start trying to profile people that use smartphones, and then what we're actually lacking is actually an understanding of what inspires social shopping. Now, it doesn't have to just be for people that use smartphones. I think you've got to look within your category and begin to understand the importance of a recommendation within that, and then obviously sort of technology allows us to amplify that. So again, I think there's always a danger that certain categories come into this, FMCG in particular, and you sort of think actually the referral for a bag of crisps, it's not really going to sway me that much, whereas if I'm buying sort of higher ticket items such as laptops, cars, actually that recommendation becomes really, really important. So from our standpoint, it's about not just looking at the technology, but actually how do you socialise all the commerce opportunities that would be in store within a dealership, and then use technology to basically amplify those sort of principles.
Okay, perhaps Ivan, if I can get your perspective on this. You know, so you, as you say, you're one of the many #1 agencies around the in this room. I just wondered, you know, supposing you have a client come to you saying, right, we want to develop a campaign that's going to engage with social shoppers. Where do you start?
Well, the first thing to do is to actually understand the digital space. I think to your point as well, technology is enabling the users to see in a different way. For example, we know from the Amazon point of view, to the recommendations is a powerful thing. You have a situation where some brands socially is not the perfect world, but you need to understand your consumers first. The first thing you understand them, start from listening. I think social media listening is a really powerful way. The second thing, understand the platforms, understand the technology, how you're going to use the technology. Because I think it's something that we have clients that turn around and say, we need to be on Facebook. Just because everybody's on Facebook. You need to be able to understand how Facebook can help your brand. And thirdly as well is to really understand the skill set you have available in-house. Could be that, yes, you know your customers, then you know the platforms, but at the same time you need to have the right resource within the agency or within your business to really understand the opportunities.
Angela, do you want to comment on that?
I completely agree with what you were saying actually, that people at heart don't really change and technology is an enabler. One thing that the social shopping I think does is to help people look good in front of their friends, and it very much depends on what you buy. So if you're buying TVs and cameras, then you're more amenable to reviews and seeing what people say. When it comes to tweeting or posting a link on Facebook, again it depends on what it is. If it makes you look good, if it's a book for example on Amazon, I may be buying a book that I've always liked and I know that lots of people are interested in, I may tweet a link to it. If it's something more personal, then I'm not. And there's some research apparently that shows that when people see tweets and Facebook likes next to products that are personal in nature, they're 25% less likely to buy it But when they're looking at things like, TVs and things like that, and they see more recommendations, they're more likely to buy. So it depends on what the product is and how it makes you feel as a person as well.
I think it's quite interesting as well. For example, if you think about today, anybody, if you're going to travel tomorrow, the first thing you do is to check hotels. It's all about reviews. If you're basically going to travel, for example, to a specific airline, the first thing you do is check what are the reviews. If you're going to watch a film, the first thing you do is check the reviews. You're never going to go and just buy a product or travel without checking the hotels. I think it's really, really powerful. The technology is just enabling us to do things really in a completely different way. The same applies in terms of automotive. I mean, now before you go and buy a car, you use social media forums like Christian Hands and so on. And I think recommendation is a really, really powerful way. It doesn't work for everything.
Do you have any sort of data by any chance on how many people actually do all this checking? Because I'm convinced that everybody in this auditorium and also out there, because of this show, is exactly the person who will be checking it socially. But at the old cliche, my mother wouldn't. I know that other members of my family, of my generation, who wouldn't, and even younger people who wouldn't necessarily go and check. Do you know actually how many people are doing this?
In terms of numbers, I think it's depending on the client. I think, like the problem in terms of, I'm sure from all my colleagues on the panel, they have the same problem. Social media is a fantastic way for us to really understand the audiences, but at the same time, it's too much data. You need to be able to be skillful enough to basically to find the real good insights outside within social media. And getting that kind of point, we know recommendations in some fields work really well. We know the entertainment is quite big. For social media, entertainment is potentially is not as powerful as our brand wants to be. But where you want a situation in terms of like everybody potentially here watches the one who is Essex. ITV got 300,000 followers. But in terms of all the actors within that reality show, on average they're about 600,000 followers. And most of the situations when you have that, you have the likes of Joe Essex basically all the time making recommendations about numbers. And they are seeing a huge impact in terms of increasing local shops of people going and asking for it. And I think this is really important. Look, it doesn't work for every single agency, but at the same time for a single brand, but at the same time it's really, really powerful in terms of how you use it.
Yeah.
There's a great site if people do want statistics like that, and I would say just be careful and look behind the methodology when you are looking at such things. Socialcommercetoday.com, and it'll have infographic after infographic, case studies, notes, and all that. Very good site. Good curation of details as well. One thing I just wanted to point out, I think reviews is only one step of this game. I think it's sort of becoming a little bit it's overt in some sites and then it's very covert in other ones. So for example, Google Plus is a great example of how it's becoming much more covert and people are +1 in things and leaving comments with perhaps not knowing about them, and that's a great big element and a massive opportunity for people certainly to start getting increased search rankings, and I think that's a massive part of social commerce that a lot of people are missing is getting involved in these platforms as well.
There's that, and the other thing which perhaps you can come in on to also say whatever you were going to say first by all means. But I'm just wondering whether people are yet getting a bit wise to the fact that the person putting the review up may be someone who A, disagrees with them, or B, doesn't know what they're talking about. There are definitely cases out there where someone's put a review up is factually wrong about some piece of technology. Or indeed, my daughter's favourite group, she's at a museum, my daughter's favourite group is One Direction. Now, you can have reviews of a One Direction tour, 5 stars, 50 people reviewing it. I know I would rather go to the dentist than go to that tour personally. So those reviews are useless to me. That's an obvious example. But, are people looking intelligently, particularly, at the sources of these reviews?
Yeah, I think there is a growing awareness that there has been some sort of dark tactics used over however long, if you like. But where I see the opportunity, and I think Google Plus is a good way of doing that, is actually bringing it to what people are comfortable with. So actually, it might be that they don't use forums to research heavily on a product, but actually they trust the advice of someone within store. Believe it or not, that still happens. So actually how we, as businesses, not just looking at this digitally and looking at technology first, but actually thinking about what incentivizes people to buy and then incorporating that into their channels. As I think most people, even my mother included, will use Google. She's comfortable with that. So actually now we're factoring